Left side collapsing. Left side collapsing. Left side. That's collapsing. So this is better. Okay, good. I'm getting out of it. It's working. This is better. This way we can. The problem, but actually, if you are sitting over here, suppose we are having, going to have video conference, sitting over here, then there is no lighting. So, if you really want video conference from this room, you have to put a chair on the other side, so that this light, will be on your face.
Without option, getting the house. It becomes very tough to do nice and class nice.
For any sort of a video conference class, then you require proper lighting and lighting on the face of people. Otherwise, the whole thing will be dark. Because I took 3 sessions with Trivandrum students sitting at my house. So I had to change the position of my laptop. I had to sit in a place where the light comes onto my face. So I had to keep it over there. And then there has to be a plug point near it because it drains power that much. Right? Video conference will drain your power. So you have to be powered online, otherwise suddenly it will stop.
It also needed less space.
Yeah, that's it. There are minor,
Very last 6 years, I'm thinking of going to this post-grad program. Can you guide me?
Why? This question is why. Why do you want to go for a postdoctoral program? It starts with everything, it's why.
Yeah. Use a lot of opportunities are going to be gaining knowledge in the area that I want. I'm going to do
No. Now that you are an academic, you want to gain more knowledge in a particular area. Do you want to do field work? Or do you want to do, do you want extended time so that you can do a field work or you can collect data and then do a research work now? Are you looking forward to, I prefer to do research now and I want to publish, but there is an interesting theme on which I want to work on. And hence I want a couple of years outside and get out of teaching, get into an institution where I can be into full-term research. Okay, that is okay. The it could be that you associate with a professor abroad and just go abroad or any other institution say that I am going to be with you. You arrange some stipend or whatever it is for me. I'll work with you, okay, on a research, okay. Or I just want to come and be with you, okay. I'm ready to pay your rent, okay. And you have to get some funding from somewhere else, probably. Okay, so if you get some funding from somewhere else, okay, then you can always work in any institute. Tell them that there is not going to be any cost for you. I'm getting money from elsewhere, etc. But then I want to use your library. I want to, have frequent discussions with your faculty, etc. Maybe if you want me to take a couple of classes, I'm ready to take classes also. That sort of an arrangement is possible. But objectively understanding that I want to now spend some time, 2 or 3 years, okay, researching and publishing. That should be the aim, okay, on a particular theme, okay, because I'm fascinated by that theme.
Completed in 93. 98, 2000, I got for this project. I got as you said, it is not going to be a 20 years back.
So why don't you get a research project and then do it from with your base as DCS Math and then. So because we welcome that. I am sure with your credentials, if you apply for a UGC project or a AICT project or a Ministry of Industries project or the Ministry of Small Industry Department of Small Industries project of the Government of India or Ministry of Technologies, DST, Department of Business or Department of Science and Technology project, you easily get one, okay? And then you can also think about making it as a teamwork over here. You be the leader, you have a principal investigator, you have a team over here. Take DCS as a base. I think your postdoctoral research you can do here. Think about that. So because we look forward to that. And any seed money, for a seed money for doing a field work or going to libraries and collecting information, a seed money. Provided you put a proposal in the deliverable, a pakka project proposal in that funding agency. Okay? But I require a seed money. We are ready to give seed. Okay.
Sreekumar, his UGC Southern Regional Office in Hyderabad. G. Sreekumar, I spoke to him once. Spoke to him once, he said, you can get that project very based on the institution where you are working and you should show us the infrastructure that you have, the libraries.
UGC is not very, because I was in one of the committee. I was in a committee for sanctioning UGC research projects. We were just doling out because anybody who came, we just kept on giving it. Okay, that is what we did because there is enough money and there are not enough good project proposals at all. Even for retired people, like even I can apply now. Only because I have now associated with somebody, okay, younger to me who is working in an institution, okay. But then I can work for it. Okay? And the UGC's attitude is that retired professors should not sit idle, should do research. Okay? So hence money for them also. And in certain cases it was very obvious, okay, very obvious, even when we gave it, that the professor retired professor wanted the money actually, because for his livelihood. That is why he had formulated a process so that not much of an expense he can handle it, but he will get some money also. We accommodate like that, while there is going to be an output, there is going to be some deliverable at output, then we say fine. Oh, a serious issue. Hmm? What in the ladies' hostel? Who through? Students. So they behaved exactly like Sreekumar during 1973-75. I didn't throw stones, but then I used to come drunk to the hostel. So I was telling them that students probably were behaving exactly like Sreekumar during 75 when he was doing it. Yeah, we understood it. But then I told my faculty colleagues in Trivandrum once that in the evenings I come across students and they tell me that there is no work to do for the next day. I will take them to a bar for drink. Okay. I'll take those students to a bar in Trivandrum nearby and then have a drink with them. Okay. So ensure that if that should not happen, ensure that they have some work. So they are sent home, the students. Now I think everybody in the country is going for, I'm not talking even about education institutions, webcams and cameras, a lot of corruption cases were all caught, even in Kerala, government offices, because of webcams and cameras, etc. Yeah. Now there is something called Google Glass which is coming. Have you heard of that? Yeah, Google Glass is an interesting. It's not photography, but I wear that glass and then look at Satish sir. Then I will get a complete search on Satish sir. I can look at it. I just tilt my glass. I can look at it. Satish biodata, Satish LinkedIn, user ID, Satish Facebook ID, everything. I can then click on that and read whole thing, etc. So wherever the glass looks at, and then if I want to understand more about that building, so it will search for that building and then give me information. Okay. So that is Google Glass which is coming up. Okay. Yeah. Shall we start? Yeah. I think Menon sir and Pramod sir, please come to the front. It's Joyce House. Yeah, so good morning again, and then before handing over, the forum to Umesh sir, for a moment, I'll just tell the most positive point which I found, in the whole case discussion today morning, and then we'll get on to the discussion. The most positive point was that your decision to at some particular point of time to group the students and then have discussions for about 5-10 minutes. That way, I think most of them got involved in the case, and at least for those moments they thought through the case, okay, to arrive at something. That I thought was the most important noticeable positive point as far as today morning's case discussion is concerned. Okay. Other points we'll get from other faculty members. Now, quickly, Umesh sir, can you share with us what we call as your teaching note? Very exactly, you were teaching using this case. What is your teaching note? No, it need not be even. Normally it should be black and white. For every case which I handle, I have something in black and white. I have half a page note at least. If it's the first time that I'm using a small case, okay? Or normally a 1-page note I have, okay? Very clearly written down, why am I using this case for what particular purpose, and how am I likely to use this particular case in the classroom before I go to the class, okay? So do you have something like that to share with us? But then even not be black and white, you can just share your thoughts in terms of before you enter the class, or yesterday evening, or because you prepared the case in long back, you have some idea in terms of how can I use this in the class, for what particular purpose. Okay?
So the basic purpose of this case was actually detailed for DC books, actually connected DC books in CA had asked to take it almost 5 years back. So for the office assistants, people working outlets in DC books. Now that particular aspect, that particular time was a big problem where you felt that there was lack of bonding with customers with respect to kind of books being arranged, and the customers were not really benefited over coming to a particular outlet and selecting it and going. And that's what the kind of quality of the customer relationship. But since I read the case, I feel that indeed there were some characters which were brought in, like now the existence of an organization in terms of values, in terms of organizational values that are being involved, plus the existence of organization in terms of social values created because of foundation. We try to get transfers of knowledge from one decade to next decade or 1 year to next year. How the values will hold on to this kind of organization. That's what. Whether this particular values can be connected to customer relationship, and whether the customers are looking for such values to be created by an organization, or whether in a implicit manner, whether the value hold on by customers coming in and buying. It is not exactly related to the product or book you are offering. It is basically related to the experience of the ambience of your particular. The ambience actually changed from day to day because of various factors of that was the second thing. Yesterday when I thought about it, I was trying to relate the canteen with where a monopoly aspect is being. This is a campus where canteen is working on competition. The silent bookstores, there was absolutely no competition that was being really focused in an exclusive manner in these. So I was trying to relate that, but I thought that I did not work out on a particular situation. I this changed to my thinking in the morning. So just try to also bring us the value of money of buying a book by a customer. Is it because of the reason that the book is very good? Is it because of the reason that the value of physical holding of the book is very good? Or is it because that learning as a process has to run in the sense that it's not related to subjects, it is also related to functions and other aspects. We get a lot of insights from these apply to a customer as a learning aspect. Definitely, that also converts to the external customer relationship. So, I feel that basically the case which was detailed actually focused on a small, on a precise level to the relevance of the customer engagement. The service of an outlet with relevance to the customer.
Okay. In case you are able to translate into the sort of language which we are using, okay, you need not use. Uncomfortable, don't. But then I normally look at, before I go to the class, in my teaching notes, I would specify, this is the competency for which, this is for the development of this particular competency, okay? It is for the development of this particular competency that I'm going to use this case, okay? So is there some competency or the most important competency for which you are developing skills through this particular case? Yes.
Yeah. On the aspect of service differentiation.
No, what is the competency?
Competency in the sense that how does, I mean, the students are
the students.
The thing is that as a professional after reading your books, how will service as a factor improve the demand in the society? How they actually service the society?
That's the knowledge. I'm talking about what exactly the competency I get out of. What can I do? For example, if I am trained through few cases like this, one case need not, develop the full competency. You might look at a package of cases, etc. But then, to reinforce. So, but then, what is that one simple or most dominant competency, okay, which would get developed in the student by using this particular case?
The habit of sales. I mean, how do they conduct conversations?
How do they
conduct conversations? I mean, other sales.
How do they conduct a counter sales? Okay, fine. So, maybe I think you should think more about it in black and white, in a sheet of paper, the competency for which I'm developing. Okay, and normally, if you really want to develop, I'm using my language as well as the case method language. Normally, if you want to develop a student in a particular competency, a case gives normally what we call as a decision dilemma. Okay? And by forcing the student to tackle that decision dilemma, okay, you develop the competence. That's the word sequence, what happens. Okay? So, if you are training the student to be a more effective counter sales person, okay, then there has to be a dilemma which is owned by a counter sales person. Okay? Here, in this particular case, implicitly, the dilemma which comes through, okay, is for probably the CEO of the organization. That is the way the case is narrated in such fashion that the CEO probably has got a dilemma, not a counter sales person, right? So that way, so that might be, you better think about it more because you will go with a black and white, teaching note. But this is what I religiously do. That I never enter a class, a case class, without a black and white, case teaching note with me, which normally will be for me, unlike the Harvard teaching notes, which you can definitely follow. For me, I just give two things in my, three things in my what exactly the competency or the competencies for which I am using, which your analysis skill. That is number one. Number two, what exactly is the most important decision dilemma in this particular case, which leads to trade-offs. Number three, what exactly are the distinct discussion blocks which are likely to happen inside the class. Okay? So three things: the competency objective. Number two, the decision dilemma. Number three, the discussion blocks. So these are the three things which I normally would have. Okay? in in a sheet of paper or in my computer before I enter the class. It's in that spirit that I asked.
The sheet of paper, the scribbling level,
That's exactly what I wanted. Nothing but that. Okay.
so the thing is that what I actually had in my knowledge, that's the reason I had to change my
Okay. But then that post small group session was a very productive session because most of the students thought through the case. So they applied their mind post small group. Okay. Now I think it's for us now to tell Umesh, how would you have handled this case if you were a case? Okay. Thomas Dawson. How would you have handled the case if you were the case teacher? Or how well would you have handled the case if you were the case teacher? Maybe you would have used it for a different set of competencies. Maybe you would have used it for the same competency but in a different way, etc. Pardon?
Just find out who knows awareness of otherwise happening develop awareness.
About what? I mean, are we talking about this case? Okay.
I try to distinguish between one who knows and one who doesn't know anything about it.
This is a general knowledge question.
And why the person who knows is not better
So what is this quiz on? I didn't get it. What is the content of the quiz?
What is the advantage of one who is reading regularly now?
No, are we talking about a 15-minute session or are we talking about a case?
No, I'm talking about the case.
Okay.
What is the disadvantage of one who doesn't know the habit of
Okay.
reading?
Okay.
And I will go to
Yeah. Now.
This is one way of introducing the topic.
Okay. Now, for what sort of a competency will you use this case?
This competency one hour to learn this thing with reading habit and understand the advantages.
Reading habits. You're using this case for developing reading habits. Sir, please make us understand. I mean, or are you telling that for every case which we are going to use in this institution, the main objective is just to inculcate reading? Yeah, I am asking about this particular case. Okay, forget about that. Do you have some sort of a comment or suggestion to make to sir? How else could he have handled the case? Or what did you find positive about the way he handled it? And what did you find negative about the way he handled it? Pardon? Sir, we are talking about a case. We are talking about a case. Are you here with us, sir? Are you Thomas George? Are we sitting in a academic workshop, a course design workshop? Please. Okay. No, I think in between I said a couple of times that I'm not talking about.
I'm sorry.
Give Umesh some suggestions in terms of, how else could he have handled the case? What exactly were the positive points of the way he handled the case? What are the negative things about the way he handled the case? Let's give some feedback. Huh? Okay, yeah. One thing which I like to talk when put as a preamble is that let me communicate in this particular manner. We are not discussing the case salient bookstore, right? We are not discussing the case now. We are discussing the case of Umesh sir handling the case called the salient bookstore. That's the case which we are discussing. I hope I am communicating right. Yes.
In this particular session,
Yeah.
wherein you have already indicated that what are the positives and negatives of women handling this case, as well as if you were in that position, what you would have done.
Correct.
So that's what I'm
Absolutely. Fine.
See, one of the things, I'm talking about positives.
Yeah.
Positive side of the handling of the the method of bringing the topic of discussion into the session was really good. Because from we started handling and then in fact we were thinking why is he going to the handling and asking the student whether it's bad and all. So from there he went to the news, then the news discussion, and again to breakfast, and then ultimately he brought that to the value of contribution, the value of contribution, the importance of value, and how the contribution can be made to a given kind of society. That was really good. And of course, for which as took some time, but still it was really good. And there was a surprise element. Because even students are there asking for the food government. And in fact, brigadiers are also asking me, beside me, is he going into the phase of in fact, everybody, that is a surprise element. That's what that was a surprise element.
I told on the day also,
What is that? What did he say? I didn't understand.
Why is not the case? And
Actually,
we also giving a proper back of creating the right strength for coming to the.
But what did you say? You told me. You said you told me something.
I told you that
Wasn't that about the newspaper reading part? It was during that time that you said this.
I got it out. I didn't know. But they I stayed out and
Because he has not indicated that he is into the case. And probably those who have read that would have understood properly what it is. And then, without mentioning the indicated about the customer demand and the importance of value and the relationship of contribution to humanity to the society and the people. It was one day it was really good because students would have got the students would have gone and an introduction to the topic, introduction to the examination. Now, because in fact about 40 to 50% of the points have already been discussed by me in the introduction itself. Now, the grades were supported in the model. Yeah, it's okay because we have done. And before the class, one thing when you asked how many of you have read it, and that was a very good thing. Maybe maybe 50% and others we have not responded to that. But you would have asked why you have not read it. Now, do you know what it is? So that you would have got some feel about how to handle the class. 50% of the people who are not believing that the offline discussion will not become good. That was the reason we decided to accommodate. But during this process, you get so much of news and leads that also being presidents by one so much of things. And after the discussion,
Which is positive or negative?
it is positive.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
And after the discussion, the points are refined and noted on the board by you. When all the students have given one point, you have refined, you have identified, and you have a matrix form. Actually, when we are doing the technology, when we are doing the it would be much helpful for students to understand and realize that if you do certain things in a neutral form, it becomes very easy. You know, when we do that organized, so similarly here also you have done the math form. It was a really good thing because I'm sure that at least 10% of the students will remember about one thing. That itself is and it was a very good thing. Then another thing which I have seen is that you have made, and I have rightly said, you have made all the things involved. All the maybe small groups of reading. But what I feel is, we would have made it more so that you could have managed the timing problem. Focus. Or only one group. And that group formation makes make it possible that all the students ensure the concept. So these were the good ones. And then the negatives also I had to. In fact, what I felt, this is my belief. What I felt was the students have not prepared the place properly. They are not. It is not your fault. The students have not prepared the place well, and they have not been able to analyze it. They have read it, but reading and analyzing, they have not been able to analyze it properly. Then, from your side, time management, because you wanted to ask all the ensure that everyone that is one. Then for group formation part also that was one thing. If you would have created some prior list of these things or 500 B group, C group, we could have done or maybe what happened? I wanted to then because the time plan was then it is not these are exactly
Only 15 minutes. I got all exactly. So timings over here because 8 to 8:30 was the settling down and then newspaper discussions etc. 8:30 to 8:55 the general introduction discussion. Okay, it is at 8:55 that you entered the case. Yeah. 9:15 to 9:30 was spent on forming groups. So all these things are these are the exact times. Yeah.
Time exceeded because we have to 9:40. This is to 9:40. The time exceeded. I'm not telling the law. Majority of the cases were those whom are already asked and who are already even those people start getting it and they are doing the march and so that I maybe because of then opportunity given to the students to discuss for it. Because when you go to they are supposed to read some and then discuss. That and why you gave that is also fine. You did it. Opportunity given the one you could have given more time, but again the management then conclusion from the topic and we will not given. Maybe the user will come from.
No, I am not.
Maybe can be, but I think agreement or debate that's not possible. So when that is not only I know. So when you give your conclusion and you give it up your conclusion,
I asked them. I only asked that I looked at the question. Their conclusions come.
Then the last one is so much of both have advantage and according to me 50% of the movement, just 50%. I don't know how many times they will work it out. But 50% of that that's what is
So I'm not thinking what happens is if I stand on the stage and I
Let's listen to the full thing. Huh? Yeah, right.
But comparing both things, I do give the rating of around 70% to your policy, and maybe or maybe little more 25%. And then the second part of it.
Okay, yeah.
The second part, if I were handling it, probably I may not have.
For what competency would you have handled?
I would have handled only for the purpose of making them understand the importance of contribution to the society. Not for creating any competency of it. Because this basis
Okay, fine. You want to make the students that organizations should contribute to society. Take a nice example of that, okay? And say this and circulate it to all the students to read, and maybe conduct a quiz later on as to whether they have read and understood or not. Why should 60 people come to a class and spend that much of time, costly time, 60 man-hours for that, just to understand that? Which can be done. You need not bring in 60 people into a physical, space like this, put all of them together in order to achieve this. Because for me, the way I look at it is, okay, I'm bringing students into a classroom. It's a very costly exercise for me, for the student also. That's why I consider the opportunity for the students also very high. When I bring, there has to be a reason as to why 60 heads should be, 60 brains should be together in the class. If, for example, something like one brain transmitting to 60 brains, I can do that through email. I don't have to have a class at all. Okay, I can do it through a video lecture of mine. When now everything, all these sort of technology are available, you can sit in your room and then look at your laptop and then video your lecture. Okay, and then transmit it across. So this is where, in the spirit of it, where your objective is very clear. There's a lot of good. I'm not saying it's not a lot of good. The objective is good. They have to understand that every organization or organizations which probably want to have competitive advantage should also contribute to society and make it visible that they are contributing to society. This is probably what you mean, right? Which can be done through a good example or a couple of examples, and then with a small note, a very brief note sent across to everybody. And if you feel that they are not reading it, just have a quiz on that. Okay, that's all. The whole thing gets over. You don't have to have 60 brains sitting together discussing. So I think for every case, for every class, I have to ask this fundamental question. Do I have to have 60 brains sitting together like that? If they don't have to sit together for learning something, you should not bring them over here. It is this costly exercise of bringing them over here. So this is where I said, the only one thing which I am discussing. Why are we doing whatever we are doing? Okay. So this includes also asking them to come at 8:30 or 9:30 to a particular class. There has to be a purpose. There has to be a purpose. Why? I want 60 brains all together in a physically proximate space. So I'm not sorry.
So there are the advancements of technology and not technology, because of that they have the drawback and all. And afterwards they were not able to contribute what they were actually what they were aiming at to the society. So the requirement of development or keeping pace with the development is most important. No. Not only that, beginning with how are you making the people to understand this?
Are you telling that you have the answer to this?
No,
you're giving me the answer.
No, I know.
So, okay, how will you handle this case for competency objective which you mentioned? You said, you want to basically make them understand that. How could the methodology that they use inside a classroom? That which probably could be similar to what the image did, or it could be different. What would be that? No, but then the discussion, no.
Sir, there is no solution for it. Actually, there is, we cannot say.
No, you have a solution. You already gave a solution that every organization should contribute to society. That's the solution. There is a single answer.
So such type of opinions can be brought in. And then whether it's feasible and relevant.
No, see, my simple thing is that I don't want to get into a dialogue, okay, with the student or anybody else on this issue unless there is a quarrel. If I have a quarrel, then I have to get into a dialogue. If there is no quarrel, and I know that you know that, and you agree with me, and I agree with you, why should I keep talking about it again and again? There's no need at all. So I get into a dialogue with another person only when I have a quarrel. Okay. Otherwise, unless I am in a love affair with a girl, and then I am only talking nicely to that particular girl, I am not into quarrel. But otherwise, in any discussion, in any formal organization, etc., right? A committee means because there can be diverse opinions coming and diverse perspectives on that particular issue, which can be brought by very informed people, experienced people. So those diverse perspectives will come. From the diverse perspectives, okay, people have now a different understanding about reality than when they entered the committee. Okay, and then after having the different understanding, now the committee deliberates on diverse options possible for tackling that particular situation. So diverse options come, and hence again a committee. Okay, that is basically because you are not able to. Everybody has not come up with one single solution. Okay, to the committee. That is why the committee is there. So unless I have a quarrel, I don't have to have the other person with me. Okay? That's my thing. Okay, so on issues where things are all very clearly known, there are answers on which all of us agree. Okay, there is no case possible. There is no case method possible. This is my view. Case method is possible only if there is a very strong decision taken, and when different people are put in that sort of strong, intense decision dilemmas, they can start looking at that particular reality in multiple ways. Okay? And because they are looking at it in multiple ways, everybody else benefits out of buying and selling these different perspectives or sharing these different perspectives. Okay? And then they get into sharing of these different options, etc. So that after 1.5 hours when students come out, okay, they are better informed students. They know that they know about they are aware about the different ways of looking at the reality, and they also know what sort of different actions are possible and what are the consequences of those actions. Okay, and then they also should be pushed into a situation, okay, where they also have to go out with their decisions. Not one decision in the class, they're different independent decisions with strong logic as to why they decided to go for that particular action. That's what they have to come up with. So this is the way I look at it. So anything which doesn't give scope for this sort of a training, okay, does not require a KC. This is my way of looking at it. Other points about Umesh handling. Anybody else would like to share? Venom, sir.
Probably, as you said, and it was nothing from what are the differences? What is the or maybe you will figure out to find out the things. Then there are different. And if they are able to find out the different, then they will do the different things. From there.
What you're saying is that push the students to the decision dilemma at the earliest.
If they are not able to write it,
At the earliest.
if they are not able to write it, then the discussion will go on and on without realizing what the decision is. That is, put the students and to some extent make them come to the point and then guide them to write or so they just have this for the A or B or C. So you know, there's a common word or it can be, the way it is conflict. So there's always a general case, you get the school. All the things are not direct. Maybe you can replace it in your life. And continue.
Do you feel comfortable in using this case, this particular case? Why?
First of all, there is no decision. Right? The many ways which we that is where we will start. As we look on this side, we can easily journey. Ideally, this should be something we can actually do it for us. Maybe it is easier or slow than because they take that because that's the person who is and there are some areas and there are some mention of what is
the case should lead to somewhere the decision dilemma which is being faced by. So I think even though the discussion today is not on case writing, okay. So let me also give a hint over here in the sense that, okay, you go for a field work for case writing, and then you capture the reality. But when we come back, we have to find out if there is some value, case teaching value for this reality which I have found out. And the case teaching value comes out, the fact that there is a strong dilemma somewhere and on which people have to make trade-offs. There is no need to one single answer there. Okay? There are multiple answers, each has got its own costs and benefits. Okay? So then you go back, and collect more information, which would give information which would enrich this, focus on this decision. Okay? So now your field work and your data collection would be focused to gather more information, to highlight this particular dilemma in rich detail. Okay? So there is a different purpose when you go for the second field work, right? And somewhere the protagonists, there could be multiple protagonists within the case. Okay, but then, the protagonist's way of looking at the reality should be everything. For example, if you want to put a student in the position of a counter clerk in a bookstore, which is what you said, okay, right? The case could have been easily written by interviewing a store clerk in one of the bookstores and then capture the whole reality. If you had worked for about 10 years, what all changes happened in terms of, because he is day in and day out encountering customers, he can easily conceptualize and then tell you, okay, that. And that should have been captured that, bookstore salesperson's viewpoint and then written the case. But if it is the protagonist is the CEO, then the CEO should have been interviewed, and then the CEO's reality should have been captured and put over there, etc. Right? So these, whom are you interviewing? Whom are you collecting maximum amount of information? Will automatically also determine who is going to be the protagonist in the case. The students will also then capture the protagonist. Okay? So that is a lesson with regard to case writing which I get from.
One more point. Yeah. I'm not coming on the case.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought the numerator of the case is two ways. So when you are writing, it doesn't connect to the beyond the decision of
the thing is that if the decision dilemma is occurring at a recent point of time, it is fine. But then if 1943 or 11 that even today is the point of time in terms of some information from there, then we may have to bring that also. For example, I think probably what Umesh wanted to inform the case reader was the sort of cultural change which was happening outside in the environment as well as within this particular organization, over decades, probably, right? So that's probably what he wanted to, bring out, okay? But then from that point of view also, I thought the case could have been written more nicely on a chronological, in a manner, okay? So that people are clear about the decades and things like that, etc. Right? Because haziness within the case, unless the purpose is to develop the competency to have clarity in a hazy atmosphere. That's a different case. Okay, so that's a different purpose. Okay, unless you have written the case from that particular point of view, you don't have to be very hazy about things within the case. Okay? You could be very clear about things in the case. With every case need not be written hazily so that everybody will have always some confusion and then will come to that. That need not be the case, because then we have a very concrete competency objective behind us. Satish sir. Okay. Yeah. Srinivasa sir. The newspaper part is a mandatory part.
I personally the next week I went around table for discussion. actually not be possible. When we are discussing, some students are discussing, we have students who are like, oh, okay, do better at that. And I personally, when the students are discussing, and the technical of the theory is standing and giving the opinion. I cannot handle it.
Okay.
But not the student, I don't get answer right, like the intelligence and the language. To some extent, can be mistakes. Once AS is going
So let me ask this question. During the introduction as well as subsequent to the introduction, who was speaking more inside the classroom? The faculty member or the student? It is. Yeah, fine. Okay. Okay.
Especially when the book representative is in the book opinion. Because most of the opinion and finally conclude. Just like getting answers from the book representative. Otherwise, it is very.
Yeah, fine. Any of the ladies? Yeah, but the classroom arrangement is probably a slight tough. Yeah, auditorium. Sarita. What is your background? What is your specialization? What do you normally teach? Okay. So we had three people with a law background. Baiju also has a law background. Yeah, fine. If the decision dilemma was on that okay, whether to I don't know. Did I understand correctly? There are changes happening in the external environment. What sort of changes should happen in yeah? But then that again has to be something where single answers are not available. Single answers are available. Print it and give it. Okay. So all the students, we don't have to have a discussion about it. Okay. But when single answers are not available, then we require a discussion. Actually, I would even say when single answers are not available, and when you also actually do not know, okay, put in the same situation, okay, you might have some bias, but then you are also slightly uncertain about, okay, what sort of a decision would you take, okay? Yeah, fine. So, yeah, but then so there is a hazy, area over there where there is a change in the external environment. If there is a single answer in terms of what sort of internal changes should happen, then there is. Okay. Yeah. Pardon, louder. Yeah. Okay, you are basically telling that now this is a symptom, so let us look at the inside what is happening, okay, and then see what exactly we should do, etc. Good, interesting points. Yeah. Now, she's even taking the case from a pure sales marketing area to organizational change area, organizational development area, etc.
Even if it's strategic, point how things are changing impact the organization. And what sort of strategic here in order to change, adapt to changing. Not that this is not enough. We can also
Okay, right. In fact, I think if you collect more information and put the whole thing in a neat chronological order, with epochs or decades, showing what exactly, was happening to customers, what exactly was happening inside the organization, then I think you get, a nice story out of it. Okay? You should get a nice story out of the case. And then when you stop at this particular juncture, then there will actually be certain dilemmas as to whether we should take the technology, go in the technology route and take it to a logical end, okay? By which there's a hint in the case that, the people orientation, the customer orientation might, slowly decrease. So there are certain minor trade-offs and minor dilemmas hidden in the case, okay, which probably in the way it's written is not glaringly coming out. Okay, so I mean, one would think about it because I'm sure that this particular analysis, as you said, it's about easy works. It has been probably at some particular point of time, facing this sort of yes, yeah.
We had a very few weeks of discussion with EF and all the legacy, those legacy for identity on the social aspect, this case was written. Maybe it is not well connected with DC books, but it has some kind of importance related now relating to the aspect of the universe understanding. I don't know whether you have in class. He was I don't know who. He was talking about the dilemma aspect of that. I don't really understand. Can you ask me what kind of changes you are advising regarding the regarding having this disabilities and about this like
now, what exactly is your question?
So the thing is that you were saying regarding the case for
I think he already shared that the decision dilemma has to come strongly, the protagonist has to come strongly, etc. He already mentioned those things. Yeah, since I think 12 o'clock, I think there is a different meeting, and I may have to go for that. So we'll have to probably artificially, wind up the discussions over there. I'll just only, to summarize, I'll just make only one slide. Oh, it's not on. This is only to, consolidate in my mind as well as in all our minds, whatever I have talked so far. Okay. No, any problem? Sir, you didn't see. Please, okay, sorry. Sorry, I missed that.
No, that's really much what I said. I think on the whole was, I didn't come to the stage in the end. On the whole, I thought was quite well done. And one or two aspects, I think getting users, any case study by any factor, the style will differ from person to person. But I think as long as the objectives that you have set for users are met, I think the case is very now. What I would have done or would not have done if I was done in that particular case. First, I will not have spent so much of time reducing the case. I also think that in any group, can't take it or assume that everybody is prepared totally from the very outset. I think normally in any case, I would start off by asking the participants to give their sense of what their case is. Your style is good, I'm not criticizing, but I would not have started that way. In fact, I had not read the case, and as you were telling, I think I had remained baffled for the time I left, actually, to 9 because I couldn't. And I was going to make it that I was really a lot of person is not really into the story. Second, not as a participant or point of view of director, I would not have brought it candidate because it's so deep institutes. And anyway, it's a comparison of battle with the knowledge. Not really have that, but students would have knowledge exactly. Third is actually you have brought to the concepts earlier than the case. I think we should emerge from the discussion first. So that is what I would have liked to do. It not involve what I intending to cover in the immediate direction and allow to emerge from the discussion. And I think that's already brought my head. We should not become I would not have made it to a question and answer. It should have been more of debate amongst the students, and in fact, most of them should have come out with the concepts of the object that in my mind, where in mind. Also, the end part is not just like what I could get from the saying that it was I believe that no case is independent of the real. I agree that there is no correct or incorrect answer to this discussion, unless there is a historical analogy that. But then I think the faculty must summarize it, at least bring out the highlights of the discussion or the opposing views, and then you may keep it open ended. But a case needs to be, I think, summarized and I think. Otherwise, I think like that.
It's a PDF.
Is it only if they go 5 minutes asking the different because otherwise there's no way we can proceed. But if there's too much of reading, then I will postpone the class. There's no other way.
34th slide. 34th slide. Yeah. Because many times I had to postpone the class and 8 to 9, giving sufficient time for them to prepare, because there is no point at all in holding the class. I mean, this is just the 34th slide of the presentation on case method. So, just a summary part of it. These are the simple points which I keep in my mind. Okay. Before going into the case class as well as during the case class. Number one, I would have put it in black and white. What exactly are my competency objectives for which I am targeting this particular case, and what are the discussion that are likely to happen. Okay. In this particular case, okay, assuming that I am using it for the fact that should I go more in the direction of technology or should I go in the direction of creating an image in the market about the historical legacy of this particular organization, okay, much more than going, technological, etc. I would have had discussion logs in terms of over decades, what exactly were the changes happening in one discussion log. Over the decades, what are the changes that happen inside the organization, okay, would be another discussion log. And this data situation relating to this technology, this property control technologies as well as people orientation is concerned. A third discussion block would be on that trade-off or decision dilemma, and then the fourth would be on what exactly are your action points, whichever the side you are going to be.
So that would have been this competency, then this discussion was put in black and white, using that one page note. I will go to the class with that. And for the above, the case should have a person
Facing a decision dilemma or a trade-off situation, both are same actually. And then I would force the students to be that person in that particular case, almost a right in the beginning. I wouldn't get into a case-independent discussion of concepts, okay? Which probably, if you really want a class on that, you could have a class on that earlier or even after that. That's a totally different affair. Okay? A case-independent discussion of concepts, which I need not mix up with a particular case which I am using. I would, as early as possible, I would force the student to be that particular person. Okay? So the dramatic description about Professor Theodore Levitt, who was a marketing professor in Harvard Business School, is that he would have had a roll number while entering the door or the classroom, and he would shout that roll number, then ask the person to get up, and then you are such a person, okay, in the case. Now tell us what exactly is the action which you're going to take. What is your decision, etc. So he enters the class with this particular question, and then onwards, the people are on the toes and then, react. And whenever the students participate, they are participating under certain hypothesis about why certain things happened in that particular organism, in that particular manner, or what exactly are the possible action plans and the consequences of those action plans. Those are the hypotheses. I look at a case class as a hypothesis testing class. Okay? This hypothesis is getting presented in different manners by different students, and the hypothesis is contested by other students. If people have different experiences behind them, different ways of looking at reality behind them, then you will find that there is a lot of agreement on the hypothesis, disagreement on the hypothesis, etc. Right?
So the hypothesis of the student is tested by the other student as well as yourself, the teacher. The teacher also become the devil's advocate. He keeps on testing this hypothesis. For me, the whole case class is this. At the end, no summarization is only there. Here is a strong viewpoint which came from these sets of students over here, who are the review of the reality. We had these sort of decisions and action plans. They want to take these sets of students are a totally different way of looking at reality. Their decisions and action plans were different. Hopefully,
each one of you are going out with your own way of looking at this reality and your own way of dealing with this particular reality. Very understood. That's conclusion for me. Okay. So this is case method for me. Yeah. Correct. Without giving any answers. Okay. Normally what I do is I say that in one of my earlier classes, some of the students said this, okay, which never came out in this particular class, etc. I wouldn't even say at any particular point of time that I hold those opinions. Okay. The case teacher, who he is, what is his mind, okay, does not get revealed at all in the class. Okay. He's a clean slate all the time because he's a researcher standing there. Okay. When he's a researcher, as almost a full-time researcher, he has got only null hypothesis. The student's problem to test and retest and negate and contest hypothesis. He keeps on holding only null hypothesis. The case teacher. Okay? He doesn't have, disprove any hypothesis at all. So, ideal case teacher would also go on the class, would have gathered all these different sort of hypotheses contested, which adds on to his teaching note for the next time. Okay? He goes out again with only null hypothesis. One of the Harvard professors in one of the articles on case method had even written, go half prepared to the class. Go fully prepared to the class. Okay? Go fully prepared to the class, you have opinions with you. Okay? If you have opinions with you on the case, on the material, then it's dangerous. Okay? The only, I'm not getting into the other slides because the other team is waiting for discussion over here. In that class, I'm only listening and trying to understand the student's view and how that particular student's view is different from some other student's view. Okay, so once I understand that this student's view is different from the other student's view, now I put them in dialogue. This is what we try to here. There is absolutely no dialogue between the students. Okay, then you put them into dialogue and say that, hey, he is telling this, he is telling this. Now you sort it out. Let's hear for some time. How are you going to sort it out? Right. So it's between them for some time at least. Okay. Unless you want some more clarification, so that the dialogue will be much more productive. Okay. So unless these quarrels are possible, there is no locus standi for case method. Okay? For single answer, sort of situations where students do not get conceptual clarity, then we require peer learning. Okay. So that is why we had designed this workshop, one session for case method and one session for peer learning. So that the peer learning method is pure for exclusively for single answer situations where the concept is complex. So that getting clarity is slightly difficult, and hence you have to have a different mechanism. Where Eric Mazur from Harvard feels that he miserably failed when he resorted to lectures method for about 5 years, and he switched over to the peer learning and methodology. So that's where we stop, and then in case there is time today afternoon sometime, tomorrow I do not know, there is some question mark about, am I right, the peer learning session?
It is back.
So the null hypothesis is that we are going to be in 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The null hypothesis.